The exploration vessel Horizon drifted silently through the darkness of space, its engines humming quietly as it maintained position at the designated neutral meeting coordinates. The ship's sleek design reflected the distant starlight, identifying it unmistakably as human-made against the backdrop of endless void. Captain Jaiwo Park stood on the bridge, his experienced eyes scanning the readouts that covered the main screen. 20 years of space exploration had taught him to be thorough, especially during first contacts. This would be humanity's 7th encounter with a non-Earth species, but experience had taught them that each new civilization brought unique challenges. Any update on their approach vector? Jaiwo asked, his voice calm despite the tension that filled the bridge. Officer Do-hyun looked up from his science station. Their vessel maintains its position at the agreed distance. All readings suggest their technology is significantly advanced compared to ours, Captain. The communications officer, a young woman named Summon, adjusted her earpiece. Captain, we're receiving a transmission. Visual and audio. On screen, Jaiwo ordered, straightening his uniform. The main display flickered, revealing a being with smooth gray skin and large, dark eyes. Its head appeared slightly too large for its slender body, but its features showed clear signs of intelligence. The translator systems worked quickly to process the alien language. Greetings from the Vraxian Collective, the being said, its voice translated into a neutral tone. I am Representative Taeho. We have monitored your approach and accept your peaceful intentions. Jaiwo nodded formally. I am Captain Jaiwo Park of the Earth exploration vessel Horizon. We are pleased to establish contact with the Vraxian Collective and hope this marks the beginning of beneficial relations between our peoples. The alien's expression changed subtly. We have completed our analysis of your species' habitat data. The conditions of your home planet are. There was a pause as the translator sought the right word, extreme. Do-hyun glanced at his captain with raised eyebrows. Earth was considered quite hospitable by most standards they had encountered. Our records indicate your species evolved in an environment with significant temperature variations, powerful weather patterns, high gravity, and regular natural disasters, Taeho continued. You are what our classification system would term Deathworlders, beings from harsh planets. The bridge crew exchanged confused looks. To them, Earth was home, its conditions perfectly normal. We mean no offense, the Vraxian added quickly, noting their reaction. It is merely a classification based on environmental factors. In fact, it explains much about your species' resilience and technological development path. Jaiwo nodded carefully. We understand. Different evolutionary paths create different perspectives. The Vraxian seemed to relax slightly. Indeed. This leads us to a proposal. As part of our standard contact procedures with new species, we invite a small delegation to participate in our safety certification drill. It helps us understand how your people assess and respond to various situations. The science officer leaned toward the captain. This could be valuable, sir. Their behavior suggests they're extremely safety conscious. Participating might help build trust. Jaiwo considered this. First contacts were delicate, and accepting customs of the other species often helped establish good relations. We would be honored to participate in your safety drill. What would this involve? A simple navigation through standard hazard simulations. Nothing dangerous, merely an assessment exercise, Taeho explained. It would greatly help us understand how to interact safely with your kind. What the humans couldn't detect was the subtle change in the Vraxian's body language. To another Vraxian, it would have been obvious that Taeho expected the humans to perform poorly. The collective scientists had theorized that species from high-danger environments would display reckless behavior, having evolved with constant threats. We accept your invitation, Jaiwo said firmly. I will lead a small team personally. Excellent, Taeho replied. Transmitting coordinates for docking now. We look forward to your arrival. After the transmission ended, Jaiwo turned to his senior staff. Nina, Hyunwoo, Sumin, you'll join me. Standard diplomatic protocols plus full sensor equipment. Let's make a good impression. As the team prepared for departure, none of them realized they were about to become test subjects in an experiment designed to prove a theory about Deathworlders. The Vraxians, having evolved in a stable, predictable environment, could not imagine how any intelligent species could develop in Earth's chaotic conditions without becoming dangerously impulsive. The shuttle departed the horizon 12 hours later, carrying the human delegation toward the massive Vraxian station. Its gleaming surface revealed no windows, only smooth metal broken occasionally by carefully designed docking ports, a civilization that took no unnecessary risks, even in design. "Remember," Jaiwo told his team as they approached, "we represent all of humanity today. Whatever this drill involves, we follow protocols and proceed with caution." What none of them knew was that their natural human behaviors would soon challenge everything the Vraxians thought they understood about danger. The human shuttle docked with a gentle thud against the Vraxian station. As the airlock cycled, Security Chief Mina checked her equipment one final time. The sleek metal corridor that greeted them was spotless, with soft blue lighting that pulsed gently along the walls. Four Vraxians waited for them, their gray skin appearing almost silvery in the station's lighting. The tallest stepped forward. "Welcome to Training Facility 12. I am Instructor Unjin," the Vraxian said with a formal bow. "We are pleased you have agreed to participate in our safety certification exercise." Captain Jaiwo returned the gesture. "We appreciate the opportunity. This is my Security Chief Mina, Engineer Suman, and Medical Officer Hyunwoo." The Vraxians led them through a series of corridors, each one identical to the last. Suman noticed that every doorway had at least 3 separate locking mechanisms, and safety warnings were posted every few meters. "Our facility simulates various environmental conditions," Unjin explained as they walked. "The drill assesses a participant's ability to identify potential hazards and respond appropriately." They arrived at a large chamber where several Vraxians sat behind control panels, monitoring screens filled with data. A transparent wall revealed what appeared to be a simple obstacle course beyond. "This seems straightforward enough," Hyunwoo commented, studying the course. Yunjin's large eyes widened slightly. "The hazards may not be immediately apparent to the untrained observer. Please review these safety protocols before we begin." The Vraxian handed each human a tablet displaying what looked like hundreds of pages of detailed instructions. The humans exchanged confused glances. "Is there a summary version?" Mina asked politely. The Vraxians looked shocked. One of them, introduced as Observer Juno, quickly made notes on his own device. "The protocols are designed to ensure your safety," Unjin explained slowly, as if speaking to children. "The first section contains only minor temperature variations of 3 degrees, subtle lighting shifts, and minimal gravity fluctuations of 0.02 standard." Captain Jaiwoo scanned the first few pages of the protocol. "I believe we understand the basics. We're ready to proceed." The Vraxians looked concerned but led them to the entry point of the course. Behind the transparent wall, other Vraxians had gathered to watch. "Remember," Unjin said gravely, "careful assessment before each section. Use the monitoring equipment to verify conditions before proceeding. If you feel endangered at any point, signal immediately and we will extract you." The humans nodded politely, though Suman had to suppress a smile. The conditions Unjin had described were barely noticeable by human standards. As they entered the course, Hyunwoo whispered, "Are they serious? These are the dangerous conditions?" "Different evolutionary backgrounds," Captain Jaiwo reminded him quietly. "What's minor to us might be extreme for them. Stay respectful." The first section was a simple corridor where the temperature gradually increased from 20 to 23 degrees Celsius. The Vraxians watched intently as Mina walked through without hesitation or visible discomfort. "She didn't even use the thermal scanner," one observer gasped. The second challenge involved a room where the lighting dimmed by approximately 15%. According to the protocols, participants were supposed to stop, allow their vision to adjust for 5 minutes, then proceed using special light-enhancing goggles. Hyunwoo simply walked straight through, commenting, "Reminds me of dusk back home." The Vraxian observers were frantically recording data, their expressions a mixture of horror and fascination. The third section featured slightly reduced gravity. The protocols recommended a 12-point harness system and careful movement using specially designed handholds along the walls. Sumin simply pushed off gently from the entrance and glided smoothly to the exit, executing a perfect landing. "This is actually fun," she called back to the others. Behind the observation glass, Unjin conferred urgently with the other Vraxians. "They're not following any of the safety protocols," he said, his voice tense. "How can they function under these extreme variations?" Observer Juno studied his readings with growing interest. "Perhaps our understanding of Deathworlders is incomplete. Their biological responses don't indicate any stress or danger awareness." In the control room, a Vraxian scientist named Taeyang approached Unjin. "I suggest we move directly to level 3 parameters. These conditions are clearly insufficient to trigger their danger response systems." Unjin hesitated. "Level 3 is designed for theoretical modeling only. No Vraxian has ever physically experienced those conditions." "Yet these humans are showing no reaction to level 1, Taeyang argued. "We must understand their risk assessment capabilities if we're to interact safely with them." As the humans completed the first course section, they were surprised to see the Vraxians looking so concerned. "Did we do something wrong?" Captain Jaiwoo asked as they exited. "No," Unjin replied carefully. "Your performance was unexpected. We would like to continue with a more advanced scenario, if you are willing." Of course, Jaiwoo agreed. "Whatever helps build understanding between our species." The Vraxians led them to another chamber, this one marked with far more warning signs. "The next simulation involves more significant environmental variations," Unjin explained, his voice slightly higher than before. "Please review these additional safety measures." As the humans skimmed through the new protocols, the Vraxians secretly adjusted the parameters to levels they considered potentially lethal. They believed they were about to witness the reckless nature of Deathworlders. Instead, they were about to learn just how relative the concept of danger could be. The second testing chamber looked much more elaborate than the first. The walls were lined with additional safety equipment, emergency hatches, and what appeared to be medical stations. To the human team, it seemed excessive for what still looked like a basic training course, but they remained polite and attentive. "This scenario simulates moderate environmental hazards," Unjin explained, though his voice betrayed a tension the humans easily detected. "We have adjusted the parameters to better understand your species' response to challenge." Behind the observation glass, senior observer Juno leaned toward scientist Taeyang. "Are we certain about these settings? The radiation levels alone would require immediate medical intervention for any Vraxian exposed for more than 30 seconds. "That's precisely what we need to understand," Taeyang replied, his eyes fixed on the humans who were casually checking their equipment. "Their planet has background radiation levels that would be harmful to us. Their biology must process it differently." Captain Jaiwo studied the course ahead through the entry portal. This one appeared more complex, with changing light patterns, moving platforms, and warning indicators flashing at various points. "Remember," Unjin said gravely, "the protocols recommend full protective gear for this level. The environmental suits are in those containers." Mina opened one of the containers and examined the Vraxian protective suit. It was incredibly thick, with multiple layers and reinforced joints. "These seem a bit bulky for the obstacles ahead," she noted. "Would it be acceptable if we used our standard gear instead? It allows for better mobility." The Vraxians exchanged alarmed glances. The human standard gear appeared to be simple uniforms with minimal protection compared to their own safety equipment. "That would not be." Unjin began, but Taeyang interrupted him through the communication system. "Allow it," the scientist said. "We need to observe their natural responses." The course began with a section where radiation levels were gradually increased to what the Vraxians considered dangerous exposure levels. The humans walked through, completely unaware that their hosts expected them to show signs of distress. "Radiation readings are within normal parameters for space travel," Sumin commented, checking her handheld scanner. "Nothing concerning here." In the next section, the gravity fluctuated between 0.8 and 1.2 Earth standard variations that would cause severe disorientation and physical stress for Vraxians. Hyunwoo simply adjusted his stance slightly as he moved through, maintaining perfect balance. Reminds me of the variable gravity training back at the academy, he mentioned casually. Though that was more extreme. Behind the glass, the Vraxian observers were furiously recording data, their expressions showing increasing concern. They're not even using the emergency handholds, one whispered. The third section introduced atmospheric changes, with oxygen levels dropping by 15% and introducing trace amounts of gases that would trigger immediate respiratory distress in Vraxians. Captain Jaiwo noticed his breathing becoming slightly deeper but otherwise showed no reaction. Air's a bit thin here, he noted to his team. Like high-altitude hiking. In the control room, Taeyan was becoming increasingly fascinated. They're not just tolerating these conditions, they're barely noticing them. The Deathworld adaptation is remarkable. We need to understand their limits, Juno insisted. Increase the parameters to level 4. Unjin looked alarmed. Level 4 has never been tested with living subjects. It's theoretical only. We need to know, Juno insisted. As the human team reached a rest point between sections, they noticed the Vraxians in urgent discussion behind the glass. I think they expected us to struggle more, Mina observed quietly. Captain Jaiwo nodded. Their species clearly evolved in very different conditions. What's comfortable for us might be extreme for them. When they continued to the next section, they immediately noticed the difference. The temperature suddenly dropped 30 degrees, the lighting became disorienting with rapid flashes, and gravity shifted unpredictably. Now this is getting interesting, Sumin remarked, zipping up her jacket. Hyunwoo pulled a small device from his pack. Basic thermal regulator, he explained to the watching Vraxians through his communicator. Standard equipment for spacewalks. The humans proceeded methodically, making small adjustments to their equipment and technique, but otherwise showing none of the panic or distress the Vraxians had anticipated. In the control room, a young Vraxian scientist named Taeyan watched with growing fascination. Unlike his colleagues who seemed disturbed by the humans' behavior, he saw something profound unfolding. They're not being reckless, he said suddenly, interrupting the concerned murmurs. They're making constant micro-adjustments based on actual conditions rather than anticipated danger. But they're not following the safety protocols, Unjin objected. Because their baseline for danger is fundamentally different, Taeyan replied. Watch how the security officer is constantly scanning her surroundings. She's not ignoring danger, she's assessing actual threats rather than potential ones. As the human team completed what the Vraxians considered an impossible challenge, Captain Jaiwo noticed something changing in their host's demeanor. The initial fear was being replaced by curiosity in some of them. I believe we're making progress, he commented to Mina. But I get the feeling they've been testing us more seriously than they initially suggested. Agreed, she replied quietly. And something tells me they're not done yet. The overhead lights suddenly shifted from blue to red as a harsh alarm began to sound throughout the facility. The smooth, automated voice that had been calmly announcing each test segment was replaced by a more urgent tone speaking in the Vraxian language. What's happening? Captain Jaiwo asked, noticing the Vraxians behind the observation glass suddenly scrambling in what appeared to be genuine panic. The communication system crackled as Yunjin's voice came through, higher pitched than before. This is not part of the simulation. We have a containment failure in the quantum stabilizer system. All personnel must evacuate immediately. The human team exchanged glances. This was clearly not another test. Can we help? Jaiwo offered immediately. There was a pause before Taeyan's voice responded. The quantum stabilizer contains exotic particles that create a localized spacetime distortion when unstable. The effect is spreading through this section. You must leave now while we can still maintain the emergency corridors. Sumin checked her scanner. Captain, I'm detecting unusual energy readings. Whatever this is, it's serious and growing. A loud crack echoed through the chamber as one of the walls seemed to bend inward without breaking. The light around it warped strangely, as if being pulled toward a central point. That's not good, Hyunwoo observed calmly. Mina had already moved to the exit door, but found it sealed. The emergency protocols have locked this section down, she reported. Through the observation window, they could see Vraxians moving in what appeared to be slow motion, their expressions frozen in terror as they tried to operate the controls. The time distortion is affecting their section too, Suman explained, studying her readings. They're experiencing time at about 1/10 our rate right now. Captain Jaiwu assessed the situation quickly. So we're on our own until they can move enough to help us. Suman, what are we dealing with? The engineer studied her scanner intently. Based on these readings, I think their quantum stabilizer uses controlled microsingularities. One has become unbalanced and is creating localized gravity and time distortions. Can we fix it? Jaiwu asked. Suman hesitated only briefly. Possibly. The principle should be similar to the experimental drives we worked on near Jupiter last year. I'll need to get closer to the source. That's too dangerous, Hyunwoo objected. The radiation levels are rising. We've handled worse, Suman replied with a shrug. Remember that solar flare incident during the Mars colony repair? Captain Jaiwu made his decision. Mina, see if you can manually override the door and help any Vraxians in the observation area. Hyunwoo, monitor our vital signs and be ready with the medical kit. Suman and I will check the stabilizer. Behind the observation glass, the Vraxians watched in horrified slow motion as the humans calmly organized themselves and moved toward the danger rather than away from it. What are they doing? Juno's voice came through the communication system, distorted and slowed. The stabilizer chamber is lethal now. The humans couldn't respond as they moved quickly down the corridor toward the source of the distortion. The further they went, the more strange the environment became. Gravity pulled sideways in some spots, while time seemed to flow unevenly. Like walking through syrup, Jaiwo commented as they pushed through an area of heightened temporal resistance. Suman checked her scanner again. The control room should be through that door. The readings are strongest there. They forced the door open to find a chamber filled with complex equipment surrounding a central pillar. Inside the transparent column, a small dark sphere pulsed ominously, surrounded by arcs of blue energy. Definitely a microsingularity, Suman confirmed. The containment field is failing. She moved to a control panel, studying the alien interface. These systems are advanced, but the principles are universal. The singularity needs to be rebalanced before the containment fails completely. As they worked, Mina had managed to open the observation room door. The Vraxians inside were moving extremely slowly, caught in the time distortion effect. With surprising strength, she lifted observer Juno and carried him toward the exit where the effect was less severe. As she moved him into normal time flow, the Vraxian gasped in shock. "How are you functioning?" he asked weakly. "The quantum radiation alone should be incapacitating. We've had radiation training," Mina explained simply as she went back for another Vraxian. Meanwhile, Suman had identified the key systems in the stabilizer. "The calibration is off. If we can reset the magnetic containment field and rebalance the energy flow, it should stabilize." Captain Jaiwo helped her access the system, their movements increasingly difficult as the gravity distortion intensified. "Almost there," Suman muttered, her fingers dancing across the alien controls with surprising confidence. "The principles are similar to our experimental drives, just more advanced." A final adjustment, and the pulsing sphere in the column gradually steadied. The blue energy arcs subsided, and the warping of space around them slowly returned to normal. In the corridor outside, the Vraxians were regaining normal movement as the time distortion faded. They stared in disbelief as the human team emerged from what they had considered a certainly fatal situation. "You fixed it?" Unjin asked incredulously. "Your engineer did most of the work," Jaiwu acknowledged, gesturing to Suman. "We've had some experience with similar technology, though yours is more advanced." The Vraxians looked at each other in silence, their entire understanding of the humans undergoing a profound shift. These weren't reckless beings ignoring danger, they were specialists who could function effectively in conditions that Vraxians considered impossible. "You saved many lives today," Taeyang said finally. "Including mine." Just doing what needed to be done, Captain Jaiwu replied simply. As emergency teams arrived to secure the facility, the Vraxians could not stop staring at the humans who had just casually survived and resolved what would have been a catastrophic disaster for their own species. The main chamber of the Vraxian diplomatic vessel had been transformed for the occasion. Its usual stark efficiency was softened by ceremonial decorations that hung from the curved walls. Captain Jaiwo Park and his team stood in their formal uniforms, facing the assembled Vraxian High Council. High Counselor Jinsu stepped forward, his tall, slender form moving with the careful precision typical of his species. In his hands, he held a small crystalline object that caught the light in strange patterns. 3 days ago, Jinsu began, his voice translated smoothly through the human communication devices. We invited you to participate in what we described as a simple safety drill. The truth was more complex. Captain Jaiwo nodded. He had suspected as much from the beginning. Our understanding of Deathworlders, species from harsh planetary conditions, was deeply flawed, Jinsu continued. We believed that evolution in dangerous environments would produce reckless beings unable to properly assess risks. Engineer Suman glanced at Security Chief Mina, a small smile playing at her lips. The Vraxians' initial fear of them now made sense. What we witnessed instead was something our scientists are still struggling to fully comprehend, Jinsu said. You demonstrated not recklessness, but a remarkable ability to distinguish between perceived and actual threats. When genuine danger appeared, you acted with discipline and skill. Scientist Taeyeon stepped forward next to Jinsu. Your species evolved not to ignore danger, but to adapt to it, he explained. Our species evolved in an environment with few variables and threats. We developed technology to control our surroundings completely. You developed the ability to function effectively within chaos. Different evolutionary paths, Captain Jaiwo said simply. Neither better nor worse, just different. Jinsu handed the crystal to Captain Jaiwo. This contains the official reclassification of humans in our database. No longer Deathworlders but adaptive crisis specialists. You are the first species we have encountered with this classification. The ceremony continued with formal speeches and expressions of gratitude, but the real breakthrough came afterward. In a smaller room, away from the official proceedings, the humans and a select group of Vraxians gathered around a table laden with food from both worlds. I still don't understand how you walked through that radiation field without concern, Observer Juno admitted, now much more relaxed with the humans. Our biology would have suffered immediate cell damage. Our cells repair radiation damage more efficiently, Hyunwoo explained. It's an adaptation to Earth's natural background radiation and our sun's occasional flares. Nothing special to us, but I understand why it would seem remarkable to you. Across the table, Suman was describing Earth's weather patterns to a fascinated group of Vraxian engineers. You mean water just falls from your sky? Regularly, one asked in disbelief. Almost every day in some regions, Suman confirmed. We call it rain. It's quite pleasant, actually. The Vraxians exchanged looks of shock. Their homeworld had carefully controlled climate systems with water distribution through technological means. The idea of unpredictable water falling from above seemed chaotic and dangerous to them. Meanwhile, Captain Jaiwoo and Taeyeon were discussing the future. I've proposed a cultural exchange program, Jaiwoo explained. Your people could teach us about your precision engineering and stable systems. We could share our experience with adaptation and crisis management. Taeyeon's large eyes blinked thoughtfully. Such an exchange would benefit both our species greatly. Your adaptability combined with our precision could solve problems neither of us could address alone. Later that evening, as the human team prepared to return to their ship, Eun-jin approached Captain Jaiwoo with an unexpected request. I wish to volunteer for the exchange program, the instructor said. What your team did during the emergency has changed my understanding of what is possible. I want to learn this, adaptability. Jaiwoo smiled warmly. We would be honored. And I have 2 crew members eager to study your quantum stabilizer technology. As the humans departed, the Vraxian High Council assembled for a final assessment. This encounter has proven illuminating beyond our expectations, High Counselor Jinsu noted. The incident we now call the drill has forced us to reconsider fundamental assumptions about environmental adaptation. Their approach to danger is so different from ours, another counselor observed. They do not attempt to control or eliminate all variables as we do. Instead, they develop the ability to function within uncertainty. And that may be a skill we need to learn, Jinsu concluded. Our perfect control has limits, as the stabilizer failure demonstrated. The human's ability to adapt when systems fail could be invaluable. Back aboard the Horizon, Captain Jaiwu added the final notes to his report. First contact with the Vraxian collective has been established successfully, he dictated. Initial misunderstandings regarding human risk assessment have been resolved. A cultural exchange program has been initiated that promises significant benefits for both species. He paused, considering the events of the past few days. Additional note, the concept of danger appears to be highly relative across species. What the Vraxians considered lethal conditions were merely uncomfortable to us. Conversely, their precision and control in stable environments exceeds our capabilities. Together, we may achieve things neither could accomplish alone. As the Horizon prepared to depart, a message arrived from the Vraxian diplomatic vessel. It contained just 2 words that signified the beginning of a new understanding between their peoples. Safe travels. Jaiwu smiled at the irony. For the first time, he truly understood what those words meant to the Vraxians, not just courtesy, but a profound wish for protection in what they perceived as the inherently dangerous act of space travel. And in that understanding, a bridge had been built between 2 very different ways of seeing the universe.